Okay, one more video of theory before we jump into our first exercise. What we're talking about in this video is the two main big umbrella kind of pathways of meditation. Okay, so we have probably hundreds or if not thousands of different ways to meditate, different techniques through all sorts of different cultures, right? This comes not just from Buddhism and Hinduism, but there's also like meditation in Christian mysticism, in Judaism, in Sufism, and Islam, and Jainism, and Sikhism, and like all sorts of different religious pathways and secular pathways use meditation and mindfulness. The main two we're going to be talking about are Vipassana and Raja Yoga. Vipassana is a term for insight meditation from the Buddhist tradition. Raja Yoga is a Hindu meditation, right? It comes from India. Buddhism technically does as well. As I stated before, I am not a meditation teacher. I have not been certified or graduated from any sort of certifying school of meditation. However, I have studied quite a lot about these different techniques, and I'm no expert, but I can give a brief kind of overview of them. And I have studied Raja Yoga with people who know what they're doing, and I've also studied Vipassana in Thailand under a monk as well. What I know about Vipassana is that it is largely the umbrella term, the main type of meditation that is done in Buddhist practices. Now, this is largely at the beginning where we get mindfulness. Mindfulness, bringing your awareness to the present moment, right? And oftentimes when we first start learning Vipassana, you're told to focus on your breath, the rising and falling of your belly, or where the breath is coming in through your nose or what have you. And anytime that you get distracted, you label that distraction with a note. Like if you get distracted by thinking, you label that thinking, and then you come back to the breath. Or feeling, like a pain in your knee or a slight tickle on your arm, you label that feeling, and you come back to the breath. And as you progress along this path, the teacher will often guide you to focus on different parts of your body. Okay, so you might focus right here for a breath, and then you change right here, and then you change your focus to the shoulder, and then the opposite shoulder, and things get more complex as you move along, right? You're bringing your awareness to different parts of your body while also focusing on the breath. And this is quite challenging to do. And during intensive retreat, you often get an accelerated version of this, right? Where you're getting further instruction on a daily basis. Oftentimes you're alternating sitting meditation practice with walking meditation practice. That is its own practice where you're focusing on the movements of your feet and the feeling of your feet as you're walking. And the main kind of goal of this, although a lot of meditation teachers will say that there is no goal, we're doing meditation for its own sake. Even the preliminary exercises should be done to a very high level, right? So it's not like we need to just continue to level up and level up and level up our meditation practice. That's not the goal. The goal is to do it, okay? But the idea being that as we progress along, because there is a progression, even though there is no goal, there is a progression of different exercises, that eventually you will arrive at single-pointed focus, where you are able, through a lot of training in doing that, focusing on the breath, not changing the breath, but focusing on the breath and taking your awareness to different parts of your body. And as you get distracted, you come back to your anchor point, a part in your body and the breath, or what have you. But that through training that, we will arrive at single-pointed focus, where we can have a thought and we can see the thought through without getting distracted or going off on tangents or what have you. And we can gain what's called insight through doing that. So this is what people say when they say meditate on something. They mean attain single-pointed focus and see the thought through and gain insight from it. At least that's my interpretation of what I've learned there. Now, on the other side, we have Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga takes a different approach. Now, there are what's called 8 different limbs of Raja Yoga, and we're not going to be going through all of them. I would recommend that you look up original sources on this, like the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, or other South Asian sources on this, with people who can give commentary and kind of lead you through. But Raja Yoga is more like a step-by-step level to bring you to single-pointed focus as well, but it takes a different approach. Vipassana is more about mindfulness, becoming aware, not changing the breath, not having to change the posture or whatever, just being in a comfortable position. If it hurts, you let it hurt, but it's okay to move a little bit, but typically you don't want to be moving all that much. And as you drift, you come back, right? And with Raja Yoga, the first 2 limbs being yamas and niyamas, do's and don'ts, really, ways of living your life. And these are good to pay attention to, although a lot of them are within like a religious context, right? It's still good to know about them. It's good to know about the culture and what they are in that culture that we are now using the techniques from. For us, for practice, maybe like a do would be having your phone turned on silent or put into focus mode, right? Maybe telling your kids or your spouse or your roommates or what have you that I'm going to be practicing music for about 20 minutes or 10 minutes or what have you, and it would be really cool if you need me to not bother me until that 10 minutes has elapsed, right? Setting up your space, turning off distractions, and setting yourself up with everything you might need, right? A guitar tuner or your sheet music or what have you. So nothing that's going to bring you out of that session, having a journal present or what have you. Now, the third limb is asana. Asana meaning posture. And in this, we actually choose a posture and we sit in that posture and we don't move. You're not allowed to move at all. Even if you have an itch, even if you have a twitch or whatever, you, through sheer will, you stabilize that posture. And it's even been said that like, if you do move, you make a note that you did, or you take note of how many times you had to move through that. But you're focusing completely on stabilizing your body and being absolutely still, right? This can take quite a long time. You might feel a lot of pain in there, but over time, it becomes comfortable to stay still. This is largely a huge impediment to people's meditation practice, is that they can't sit still for a long time because they feel pain or what have you. Now, this isn't prescriptive. I've been told by a lot of physiotherapists and things that a moving posture is a healthy posture, right? And that you don't necessarily want to sit in one place through sheer will and all that. But the idea is that also your brain is trying to distract you. And so it's going to make you feel an itch or make you feel pain where there isn't actually a cause for it. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physiotherapist, but I have experienced that I couldn't sit still. It was painful to sit still. And then eventually it was not. And it took maybe several months of sitting in one position and stabilizing that posture. But eventually it got better. Again, this is not prescriptive. I'm just telling you what the practice is, right? Then we have pranayama, which is breath techniques, breath work, right? And that breath work could be like box breathing, 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold for 4 seconds, and you do that, or more complex techniques, right? And how that is different from Vipassana is that Raja Yoga in pranayama, you are altering your breath. You are changing your breath. You're lengthening it, or you're doing it quite quickly, and it can help you to focus specifically on the breath because you're actively changing it. Now, these things can take a long time to stabilize. After pranayama, then we would have pratyahara, and this is when we start focusing inward, right? We are becoming mindful. This is where we start taking our awareness away from things to do with the body, like the breath or the seating position or what have you. We start applying it more inward or onto a specific thing. This is where we have pratyahara, we have dharana, dhyana, and finally samadhi. And there is a lot of theory going into those different things. And but really, first of all, you're just taking your senses and you're focusing them inward, right, to the inside sensations of your body. It could be, but it's mainly just bringing your awareness from outside and putting it inside. And then we learn to have single-pointed focus. So taking that focus and putting it onto a single point. In the further stages like dhyana and samadhi, this is union with that. Union could be with the idea, the object that you are meditating upon, or it could be on a more metaphysical level, your concept of the divine or what have you, or the higher self or what have you. Those later stages don't necessarily pertain to us specifically when it comes to learning music. However, the ideas of focus can. And we're going to be taking some ideas from both pathways in this and applying that to how we are learning music. So these are largely my sources for these ideas, Vipassana and Raja Yoga. So if you want more information, you can look more into those traditions, and I would even recommend actually taking one of them up. And whichever one you choose is up to you. I think they both have their own benefits, and they're both kind of equal benefit. I found great benefit from both of these pathways. Now here's where we are kind of departing from the meditative aspect, and we are going to apply it to a musical aspect. So there is sitting practice, there's walking practice and things. This is kind of practicing this mindfulness and this meditative single-pointed focus in a vacuum, right? Where we aren't being hugely stimulated, hopefully, right? And this is where a lot of the challenge comes for people, is because they might find it boring or what have you. But really the insight here is how busy your mind is even when you're doing nothing, right? And how we are unable to be in the moment even when nothing is happening. On the flip side, people can often find that they are able to be in the moment more often if there is something that is bringing them back to the moment, some stimulation, some ecstatic experience, right? But when we're working on building a skill, we can't rely on ecstatic experiences, right? It's going to be some of the taking out the trash, doing the laundry type things. And so this is where having a sitting practice is really important, that we're doing that in a vacuum. And if you can do that in a vacuum, you can apply that to learning skills, in my view, right? But let's talk about how to apply it to building skills. We're going to start that in the next video.